Hey guys, welcome to the preface video. I put on my eyelashes just for you. So I thought I would tell the story in several parts. This part, I'm just going to tell you a little bit about how I intend the story to be read and like from what perspective. The book that I'm creating for this is meant to be more of like a treasure map than an actual novel. So a lot of the story that I'm creating, I'm not going to be telling like the backstory outright. Except, here. But it'll hopefully just unfold as you travel through the house. You're going to start on the porch, so that'll be like chapter 1, and then you'll go through the parlor, chapter 2, and all the way up to the attic, which will be the final chapter. So all the clues and stuff I'll be hiding and things, lead them all up to the upper areas of the house. How I'm going to share these videos is I'm going to start at the beginning of Rose's life, so like early 1900s, all the way to the end of it, which is like mid to late 60s. There are about 4 major time periods that are really important. So each of these videos will focus on those events. So we start at the turn of the century. Rose was born in the late 1800s or so. Her family is in rural Mississippi. They have a canning business and they are very wealthy from this canning business. In around like 1906, there is a really big hurricane that occurs in Mississippi, which has actually happened. Their canning factories are all demolished. Rose's mother and her brother die. They never find the brother, but she is the one who found her mother, which is a little bit traumatizing for her, like the way that she found her. She was very close to her mother. Her mother's name is Violet. So for, the next 20 or so years, she's with her father, whose mental health is declining, and it's just her and him, and she's having to take care of him. So she joins a tomato club, which back in the day, they were meant for young girls in rural areas to learn how to can and make good for stuff. So fast forward, it's 1928, and Rose goes to a greasy spoon. She doesn't usually leave the house, but she did on this day, and she meets a younger woman than she, named Georgia. And Georgia is, she's running away from her past in New Orleans, where she was a musician, really, really good at fiddle. She had a really overbearing father, and they both kind of connect on that. So she's pregnant, and Rose invites her into her house. Originally, the offer was for Georgia to come and help with like the cooking and cleaning and stuff. But honestly, I think Rose really just was craving companionship. And while she is there living with her, they fall madly in love. And things are just really, really good for a while. But the more pregnant Georgia becomes, the more protective and overbearing Rose becomes. And this is something that Georgia had run away from, and so she really just couldn't handle it anymore, and she is getting ready to go. Before this point, though, Rose had a cat who had died, and she was really grief-stricken by that. And so Georgia knew of a local priestess in the nearby swamps that she took her to. She had heard that she can help with things like this, and the priestess taught them a spell to take the spirit of another cat, or the body of another cat, and put the swap. So knowing about this priestess, Rose is freaking out about Georgia leaving because she has just, feeling she can feel it. So she goes to the priestess and asks how she can make Georgia stay with her. And the priestess gives her some lily of the valley and says, just give her 1 petal and she'll, be yours forever, all cryptic, how these things are. And she does that, and it ultimately puts Georgia into premature labor and kills her, because that stuff is deadly. And she was not expecting that. She's like, what the fuck? Just how these magic folks are. They kind of trick you, I guess. Knowing the spell that she had with the cat, she tried to figure out how to do this with Georgia. And so it was meant for an animal, not for a human. Things start to happen. But the most important part of this is that Georgia has her baby. The baby is okay. Georgia is not okay. And she is kept in the bed like as a part of the spell. You have to keep the creature or the person within the confines of the house in order to continue to see them and to talk with them. And so Magnolia was born. So Magnolia is raised as roses. Both Georgia and Magnolia are biracial, and Magnolia phenotypically presents a little bit more like lighter skin. She has red hair, so it could be passed off like this. Magnolia is a very free-spirited girl. I love her, and I think I wrote a lot of Magnolia kind of after the tomboy that I was when I was growing up. So she has a best friend named Bean, who is a kiddo, like a next door neighbor, whose family is of Gullah descent, and they have, you know, a little tree house that they go in. But that's kind of her getaway, and Bean is her best friend. Magnolia does go to school for a time, but, you know, again, Rose starts getting really weird and overprotective and starts homeschooling her. Magnolia's favorite book is Alice in Wonderland. She really dreams of moving away and leaving. And so at the first opportunity that she gets, she meets, you know, an older guy, not too much older, you know, but she's 13, 14. She tries to run away. The town people find her and bring her back. And this time, you know, Rose puts her under lock and key, essentially. So she's in this house in her room by herself. And Rose is a little Munchausen's, right? During this time, the big question, has Rose been talking to Georgia? Has she been making herself known? You know, I don't really think so. I think Georgia wants to hang around because she wants to keep an eye on Magnolia. And so she makes herself known through the periwinkle that is kind of sprouting through the walls and leading her to kind of like clues about who she is and what has happened ultimately to Georgia. And so, you know, Georgia is really, really good at fiddle. You know, Rose will hear Magnolia playing this fiddle that she finds of Georgia's that says George on it. So she thinks George is actually her father. Anyway, at one point, Magnolia does find Georgia in the room. She wasn't able to go into Rose's room, but Georgia helps her figure out how to get in there, and she figures all this stuff out. And she finds a way to contact her biological father and is planning on running away. Unfortunately, Rose she's got a sixth sense for these things, and she finds these letters that she had been writing to her biological father, and realizes that she that night is probably leaving and is in the swamp. She can't find her. When she does find her in the swamp, she just has a moment of, you know, psychosis and ends up drowning Magnolia in the swamp. And she is like, God damn it, you know, what came over me? I didn't mean to do this. This is now the second time. She then goes to the priestess's house, and the priestess is no longer there. So she breaks in and takes the book, and now is like, let's do some real magic because I just lost my daughter. So this is a really important thing I want to bring up. My buddy David, who has been my magic consultant, has agreed to partner with me even to a greater capacity. And I've asked if he can actually handle all of the magic in the house. So he's going to be making like this grimoire, Book of Shadows, that this priestess would have had. And then once he's done, he's going to send it to me. And then without my knowing exactly how the magic works, I'm going to put myself in Rose's shoes, and I'm going to sift through all of the spells that are in this book. And then write about how I'm using them, and he's going to tell me exactly what is going to happen because of that, and it's not going to be very pretty. So right now, like with the magic and like how Rose interacts with Georgia and Magnolia is still not 100% figured out. Holy shit, I say a lot. This is actually a really good exercise to watch myself talk, but I'm trying to edit the ums out, and I'm trying to say less ums. But let's wrap this up now. So like I said, the magic of the house, we are still building it. It is still in progress. And I think that's going to have a lot of say into how, God damn it, a lot of say in how the rest of the story unfolds. So I'm working on the parlor right now, and with each of these projects, I did a lot of looking into, you know, Georgia's story, a lot of looking into Magnolia's backstory. Now I'm really getting into Rose's backstory. And what has happened since Magnolia had passed away, Rose is, her mental health is beginning to decline, and that is what we're looking into right now. The big question is it the magic that is making all of this stuff happen, or is it, you know, mental health? But we're now in the 60s, and Rose has had now a lifetime of living alone and living with ghosts of her past, and quite literally in this case as well. She has begun, the kids are starting to talk, the town is starting to talk. She's been behind closed doors for a really long time. And, she, you know, when sun goes down, she's really not herself, and the kids are being dared to go up to the house, and not all of them come back. And in this case, Rose is doing some spells with, or this is, you know, what has been gossiped about. She is putting Magnolia's spirit into the bodies of these children that she is kidnapping. But these souls of these children, they don't just go away. They are also now trapped in the house. And when Magnolia was brought back from the swamp, when she drowned in the water, there are a lot of other spirits that have been in the swamp, you know, people who have been killed in the water, people who have committed suicide, people who have been baptized, you know, all sorts of stuff is in the water, and all those things are also in the house. And so by the time it's the 60s and, you know, her mental health is declining, she is haunted by a lot of ghosts. The most important thing to remember about this magic is that when you do anything with magic, there's got to be a balance, and so there's always a give and take. And in this story, whenever she wants to see Magnolia or Georgia, she has to give something up of importance, and what that's going to be are going to be the memories that she has of them. So if you think about it, like by the very end, when I'm thinking about her death, I'm trying to figure out, you know, how much of them does she remember? When she sees these spirits now, is she so confused? How much of herself does she remember? The magic itself is the thief of memory. And there's one last character that we are writing into the story, and that is of the Black Gator. And the Black Gator is the swamp, right? Like, Black Gator is the very ancient entity that she is dealing with. When she exercises this magic, he is the one that is consuming what she is giving to him, which is her life.